This is F.D. Recovery, where we interview addicts and alcoholics.
Our aim is that through this podcast, we might help you on your journey of recovery.
Thank you for listening.
Hello, this is Frank with F.D. Recovery, and you are listening to the Weekly Intention. So what we do is we go week to week with the topic and a spiritual principle, whatever we choose, right? But we work it in our recovery. And last week was emotions, and this week is going to be vulnerability. So before we dive into vulnerability, right, what we're going to do is recap on emotions and see how they worked with us in our week. So I know everybody's getting over the hangover of the Christmas spirit, we'll say. New Year is coming. In a couple of days, a day or so, it'll be a new year. So if you made it all the way through this year and you're another year clean and sober, if you're struggling, my heart goes out to you. I know how hard it is, right? But we wrap up this New Year's with a lot of love, a lot of prayer, and a lot of God, right? And my New Year's resolution will be just stay more on top of my habits, get connected closer with God, and what else? Let's say they're going to lose some weight, right? That's what I'm currently doing right now. So that's all a part of my recovery, right? Getting healthy, fit, mind, body, and spirit. So let's dive into emotions. So the way emotions work for me this week, I didn't go oh, you know what? Actually, I did go through some emotions, right? A lot of fear-based emotions, right? So without going too far into detail, I had a close friend of ours in the hospital, and he's still not out of the woods yet, and it was kind of a roller coaster, that being paired with the second year of our daughter, and trying to make it a good Christmas, but also visiting the hospital and just trying to check in because, it could be tough being in the hospital later age in his life, and also, just being in there in general, it kind of sucks. So it had us going through a lot of, different emotions, right? And I'll leave it at that. But the way I moved through it this week was to slow down and kind of take some breaths and just understand that God has a plan for it. There's nothing I can do in the grand scheme of things, especially when it comes to somebody else's health. And when they're in God's hands like that, it was a big wake-up call on how life can change so drastically and so quick. When a person goes from being super healthy to all of a sudden ICU, it kind of gets us in that realm of like, oh, wow, life is so fragile. And coming out of the Christmas time and holidays, it makes you cherish your family a little bit more. So I've been making sure now that he's out of the hospital, I've been still calling him. We've been, doing our diligence about that. And, it came up, emotions came up, and just getting to that point where we can walk through this, the tough stuff, hand in hand with our support group. And, my wife is a big support in my recovery, right? If it wasn't for her, I'd be a whole different trajectory, a whole different person. So I'm very blessed, right? So, to dig into the whole emotion topic without getting too emotional, right? Without getting too into the weeds, it's just like I was able to balance my emotions really well. Even though things were hard, I was still able to lean on God in those situations and put myself in a better position to receive God's blessings, right? Because sometimes when we're in fear and all that stuff, it's okay, right? We have to be there. not going to escape these human aspects of life. And I think sometimes for me in my recovery, I get so complacent as far as comfortable that it takes these experiences to kind of wake me up and reapply myself wherever it's needed. And understanding that it's going to ebb and flow. Emotions are like that, right? You're going to believe and feel things that aren't necessarily true, and you're going to have to walk through that. You're going to undersell it and oversell it. It's kind of what we were talking about last time. But also, I will add with emotions are very important, right? Because it's closely paired with passion. And I thought anger was connected to passion, and it can be in a sense. A lot of people blame their anger as if it's passion, and that's not necessarily true. Some people just hook on to events and or political movements and or dramas, anything to kind of let their frustrations out, right? And they go, well, I'm just a passionate person. It's like, I've walked that path and I know exactly what you're doing, right? And obviously you can't read anybody's mind, but when it's all said and done, I know what I've experienced and what I've walked through. And there's some tells to it, right? With just about with anything, with lying, somebody not being very truthful, somebody trying to get over on you. There's tells with like thieves that come into my store when I work, right? They have the same kind of movements, the same energies. They're looking at you. They're shifting. They're using their body certain ways. So it's the same difference of looking in your reality and picking up the same vibrational cues from your surroundings. So it's super important that we watch ourselves with emotions, that we don't let ourselves get carried away with these stories and these emotionally backed narratives that we can latch onto, right? Because sometimes we just have unresolved issues that we think we need to attach to all these outside stimuli that because it's kind of letting us off the hook in a sense, and letting us to partake in that, in either violence and or anger that kind of, it doesn't do much healing, right? So although, it's important to be passionate about stuff, I know once I start fighting people, arguing with people, I'm not in the right consciousness, right? For me, that's just the way it works. Maybe other people are different, and if things work for them in their recovery, and they want to be, they want to be super hell bent about religion, they want to be super hell bent about political movements, whatever it is, more power to them. But for me, I realize I have to invite balance in my life, or it gets a little bit crazy, right? I start getting, pretty self-righteous, really quick, so I can't. For me, I like stay away from the super ideology stuff, right? I just stay away from it because, I'm the type of person that will want everybody to believe me, and I won't shut up until, I've converted everybody. For the short answer is, I don't want to become a cult leader. I don't want to be in a cult. And that's what I thought was funny about AA, is I thought it was a cult the whole time, and really it's not. It's just like a spiritual walk, right? Obviously, we try not to get stuck in the dogmas and the too much of the the stuff that can kind of make it clicky, right? And we just try to focus on the spiritual principles. And that's what my walk is today, and especially with emotion, is just trying to stay well balanced, right? Understanding that you're going to feel some shit, and it's important to honor it, right? Because if you're constantly trying to barter your way out of emotions, feelings, things like that, what happens is you're never truly sitting in them. And if you're never truly sitting in them, then you don't have a real chance to analyze them, to see what's true, false, and what you may be overreacting to or even underreacting to. So it's important that you really sit in it, right? And let's not sit in it to where we go, woe's me, and oh my God, We're not talking about that, but what I'm saying is embrace it on a spiritual basis where you're looking at it in a proactive way instead of just like a woe's me way. So understanding and feeling the feelings that you are feeling and validate them and move on. And if there's more that is unpacked along filling that, then it's up for you to start putting pen to paper and figure out what the heck is going on. And call your sponsor during this whole thing. This is an inside job and it's very helpful if somebody helps you dig it. Imagine trying to dig a big trench in your backyard. It's much easier with another person or even a couple people, right? So as we're doing the digging and this whole spirituality in the garden, we'll say, as we plant and seed our garden, let's do it together and reach out with support, because that's we're stronger together, right? So let's see what vulnerability. Let's see what Google, almighty Google. Let's see what the basic definition is, and then we'll look up what they have to say about recovery. Oh, hopefully my internet's all whack job. Vulnerability. There we go. Vulnerability, the quality or state of being exposed to. I probably shouldn't stop there, right? The quality of the state of being exposed to possibility of being attacked or harmed. That's more of a survival type deal. Man, let's look up in recovery, right? Because that's true though, very opened up to anything. When that's why people don't like being vulnerable, is because you're very exposed, and it can leave you open up to physical and emotional damage, right? And that's why we battle so hard with this whole vulnerability thing. So, although that's not the vulnerability definition I'm really looking at, it's definitely the reason why we avoid being vulnerable for so long, right? So let's see what's in a recovery context. Vulnerability in recovery means honestly expressing your true feelings, needs, and imperfections to yourself and trusted others. Keyword, trusted, right? Which is powerful, which is a powerful strength, not weakness. It's not. Enabling deeper connections, self-awareness, and healing from addiction or trauma by facing shame, building trust, and seeking support rather than isolation. It involves admitting you don't have all the answers, asking for help, and taking ownership, allowing for authentic relationships, and breaking cycles of self-harm, leading to lasting sobriety and personal growth. What it looks like: admitting struggles, right? We talk about that first step, and we admitted we are powerless over our addiction or alcoholism, right? And that our lives have become unmanageable. That's step one, man. Getting to that vulnerable place where you can see the truth and then finally speak the truth, which is honesty, right? And it's a big thing when you're dealing with this whole thing, being able to be vulnerable where you could actually speak up. It takes a huge amount of vulnerability just to say when something's wrong. And that's the biggest hurdle for somebody, because we're so afraid of judgment. We're so afraid of, the hurt that we might that might come with whatever we have to admit, because we might be feeling shame about the problem. And I know for many years I was just so embarrassed because I felt like I had to have it all together, because, I'm a man, and, I got to have all my ducks in an order. And if I don't, then I'm weaker. Right. And through that fear, I was actually creating that anyways, because I was escaping any type of real responsibility due to the fact that I would never put myself in vulnerable situations which was to grow and try things that would maybe would make me look stupid. And I did that all through my adolescence. Like I had real bad dyslexia, and I didn't know that. I just thought I was stupid, right? And I just struggled reading out loud, so I just chalked it up to I'm stupid. So ever since I was a very young child, I would avoid any kind of schoolwork because I was just dumb. Like, obviously I'm stupid if I can't read out loud in front of the kids. Every time I'd read, all the words would get jumbled around, and I didn't know what dyslexic was at that time. Had no clue. And maybe it was floating around, maybe it was a very nuanced new thing when I was growing up, but I just didn't come in my realm of scope that I even had that problem. And I realized that later on in my life when I was with the tutor in college, right? I took a couple college courses after I got my GED, and they're like, "Whoa, like we need to put you in pretty much special ed for adults, right?" No, not really special ed, but but I was put in all these different different classes because I just couldn't acclimate to the schoolwork because I was just so far behind, right? And throughout my life, I just had F's on everything. And it was a really bad time for me, right? So we're talking about vulnerability, right? And that was like the biggest thing that stopped my vulnerability. I said, I'm not even going to try because I look stupid. And I had no clue that I had a learning disability, had no idea. Right. Didn't know until I was like 20 something. And that was I just look back and go, man, I wasn't stupid. I just needed a little extra help. And now my oldest daughter has it, and she's struggling. Right. And I'm just like, okay, well, I passed that down. Jeez. Right. So the next one says asking for help, reaching out to a sponsor, therapist, or loved ones when you're struggling. Yeah, absolutely, right? Connection is key to all this. You want to know about true vulnerability, why don't you start connecting with somebody? You see how fast your heart opens when you start connecting with somebody, and then they start telling you things about them, and then you realize you're not so alone, right? That's the biggest thing for us addicts is we think we're so alone and we're so different and we're so broken, right? Or we're down this path of ego that works in a grandiose way, or we think of so small, an inferiority complex with the superiority complex we talk about in the book, right? And so high of yourself and so low of yourself at the same time. And, reaching out and asking for help and even admitting you're wrong takes such a huge act of vulnerability. And I urge you, if you're struggling out there, you'd be surprised with just a little tiny smidge of vulnerability will do. It'll open up, and it's just like anything else with these spiritual principles. Once you practice it, you'll get better at it, right? And another thing, what it looks like is being authentic, showing you're imperfect and not pretending to be okay when you're not, right? Showing your imperfections, right? Showing that you're imperfect, right? That's important, right? We get this illusion of perfection that society or whoever places on us. Maybe it's us placing it on us, whatever, however we got there, however we're getting there. It's all just a misrepresentation, right? It's not real, right? The fact of even thinking that you can be perfect is not an achievable goal. Why would you be? Because that would just strip you of your whole personality. Part of being human is just the beautiful imperfections that we carry around. But also, they're not even imperfection. You're already perfect. Like you're meant to be who you are. The mess and the mistakes you're already in. It's a learning process, right? They are not your hindrances. Your imperfections are not your hindrances. They make you who you are. They show you what you need to work on. It's the beauty of life, right? And I think that's being authentic is so important. The beautiful, all of it, it's all part of you. When you start cutting off things about yourself that aren't necessarily that you don't like, right? Then you start cutting yourself off to certain truths about yourself. And it's so much easier when you start relating with those pieces of you. And if you need to change them, the only way you're going to really truly change them if you start loving them, right? We can't just cut off our arm or cut off our foot. We got to start loving these parts about us, because through that's when the healing process starts. And it takes total vulnerability to see that and open yourself up to you and also to another person. Because sometimes you could be so stuck in ego that you can't even be vulnerable with yourself. You're just in that pride mode where you're just convincing yourself of realities that aren't true because it's blocking you from the hurt that you won't allow yourself to feel, right? So, and the next one is self-vulnerability, allowing yourself to feel intense emotions and accept your limitations without judgment. That's pretty much what we just said, right? And I swear I didn't read ahead too, so that was kind of cool, kind of the symbiotic, So why is it crucial? It builds connections, fosters trust, and deepens bond with others. We cannot, I cannot tell you, I cannot stress enough about how valuable and how big connection is in recovery. Go ahead, try to have a day where you do not talk to anybody, or you do not do anything with anybody else involved. It's going to be a tough one, right? You could isolate yourself in your house all day and for weeks on end, but eventually you're going to have to go get groceries. Eventually you're going to have to go get gas. Eventually you have to go to work. You have to do something that involves another person, right? And what connection does, it allows you to stay out of isolation. Isolation is the enemy. Just understand that isolation is the enemy, guys. So another crucial thing is it promotes healing, helps process underlying issues like shame that fuel our addiction, right? It increases self-awareness, reveals patterns and triggers contributing to our substance use. Absolutely. Creates support, allows others to offer solutions and compassion, preventing isolation. It empowers you. When you are vulnerable, it will 100%. When you start getting past that shitty feeling of like, oh my God, everybody can see me, or oh my God, I'm so exposed. Once you can get past that, you'll start realizing how valuable it is. And just by you doing it, you realize how valuable it is to other people, because you almost give other people a permission to wear that ugliness, the things that they think are ugly, and showing it and putting it into light and realizing that no, this is part of being human. This is part of our experience. The places that we've been, the hurt that we've walked through, the pain we put through other people, it was all learning. We're not bad people, right? And if you're a bad person, I'm sure you're not listening to podcasts about self-development and recovery, right? That's not, that's just not. If you're like a Hitler that's trying to kill a bunch of people, you're not taking your time. Maybe you are. I don't know. I've never been a person that just wanted to, do that kind of genocide or anything like that. So I have no clue. But I have walked with a lot of evil in my heart in the past, and it wasn't even really evil. It was just a lot of hatred and frustration. It was all misguided. I was hurt. I didn't realize I was hurt, right? And once you start acknowledging some of these beautiful things within yourself, you can realize that things like vulnerability, where we used to think being a tough guy and hiding it all was the most valuable. You realize you get to a point in life where you're like, it's more valuable to let the people around me that are close to me, that love me, in, right? Because what happens is you give yourself permission to be you. You don't have to hide anything. And I got so tired of hiding everything, right? The people that I'm really close to and that I connect with on a spiritual level, I open to up tremendously. And the people I don't open up to, I just don't know them well enough, right? We have to also we have to use vulnerability with caution as well, because not everybody has our best interests in mind. But that's where you call on God and help us see the answers where our vision may be falling short. Get around people that 100% know that you know has your best interest in heart, and they can help you with situations. Oh, do you know about so and so? Can I trust him? And without trying to be gossipy, I'm talking about like with my sponsor. My sponsor will shoot it straight, like, hey, just proceed with caution. My sponsor always asks me to go to God with everything. He'll tell me whatever the facts are about him in the situation, like just what he's gone through in his experience, right? Without trying to gossip or anything like that. But to break it down, this is the real world. I would love to just say, hey, I don't have no judgment, but we still have to discern whether people are healthy in our lives and whether it's going to work. It's not that whether they're bad or good. Are they going to work in our life? Is it going to be healthy having them around? These are the conversations I never used to have with anybody. I would just let any Tom, Dick, and Harry be in my life, and all of a sudden I found myself in a jail cell again, whether it be by bad influence or my choices, whatever. It all rotated back to the cycles I would build, right? And I can blame who I want, but in the end, it was always me on that pillow talking to me. It was always me in that mirror that I had to face. And it didn't matter who did what. It didn't. I had to own my part in all of it. And all of it I had to take ownership for. Sure, there are things that may look on surface level that it wasn't your fault. But if you do some dig deep in, or if you do some deep digging, what happens is you start rotating that perception and you start going, okay, I did this. I caused this. Let me move on from it. Let me ask for God's guidance forward. Do your will, God, right? So vulnerability, guys. Let's practice vulnerability this week. I cannot stress to you enough that, vulnerability is through all of this. To let your walls down, let the love and the hurt and the ugliness, the beautifulness, let it all just be, right? Let it be who you are. And if you're feeling that and you're experiencing that, it's okay. Get around somebody you trust, find a sponsor, do some step work, and you can talk about this and learn to be vulnerable. And it doesn't always have to hurt. I remember early recovery, any kind of vulnerability just plain out hurt. It was uncomfortable. I thought about all the trauma and the this and the hurt and the stepmom and the mom abandoning me and the dad abusing me and the hateful words said to me. It all came flooding in so many different levels. And then all the hurt I did and the people I was violent with and hurting, and I just repeated the cycle, right? And so now I'm getting to this place where it doesn't hurt anymore. It's purely therapeutic to be vulnerable. It doesn't always work out. I'm not saying I'm super vulnerable and everything just works out peachy. No, sometimes it fucking sucks. But you have to embrace that. You have to embrace the bad with the good and the ugly and the beautiful. You don't get to just have it your way. You can't just pick and choose the parts of your life that you find pleasing to you and then just cut out the rest. No, you have to look at everything. You got to look at the big picture. Without all the little pieces that make you, then you can never fully stand exactly where you need to be. You can never be whole. It's integrity, right? Living in wholeness. Take the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it, and learn to heal it. Learn to adjust with it. Learn to love it. Learn to have God come into your life and guide you, right? If you got behavior you don't want to do, good. Figure out how to get out of the rut you're in and change those behaviors and acknowledge it, feel it, and move on. All right. So vulnerability, guys, this week is vulnerability. Drop some comments, all that stuff. I love you guys. This is F.D. Recovery. Peace.
Thank you for tuning in to F.D. Recovery. A reminder, be kind to yourself on this journey of recovery. Also, call your sponsor. Get connected to local support groups. And for one day at a time, stay clean and sober.